It's kooky, and it seems like they're just leaning into it. Like there's no course correction at all. Just leaning into the kooky.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Oh, yeah.
For comedy.
Man, I ain't gonna lie.
Sean Diddy Combs, a name synonymous with success, power, and influence in the music industry, is now at the center of a controversy that's shaking the entertainment world to its core. But what if there's more to the story than just a series of shocking allegations? What if the real secret lies in the company Diddy keeps, the deals made behind closed doors, and the people who have been protecting him for years? That's exactly what Joe Rogan hinted at in a recent episode of his podcast, where he drew some pretty chilling comparisons between Diddy and another notorious figure, Jeffrey Epstein.
You're just like, it's there. I mean, it's not just there.
Yes.
It's everywhere. My fucking news feed is dominated by it.
Yes.
Fox News, CNN, everyone. There's raids at Diddy's house.
Now, we've all heard Rogan touch on wild theories before, but this one struck a nerve. According to Rogan, Diddy's situation might be more than just a legal scandal. It could be part of a much darker, more sinister web of secrets that stretches far beyond what most people see. He even went so far as to compare Diddy's alleged actions and the current federal investigation into him to the horrifying high-profile case of Epstein. And if you know anything about Epstein, you know that comparison alone is enough to make people sit up and pay attention.
Harry was hanging with Diddy.
I mean, everybody hung with Diddy. That's the other tricky thing. Like, Diddy hung out with everybody. And I've spoken to a bunch of people who are like, yo, great dude, like, always there for you, never asked for a single thing.
Till 1 a.m.
And then the freak off.
Everybody says, get out of the house.
Yeah.
It's like the gremlins start eating after midnight.
The conversation between Rogan and his guest, Elon Musk, on this topic wasn't just casual banter. It was loaded with speculation and layered with implications about how the world of the rich and famous really works. Rogan kicked things off by laying out his theory, hinting that Diddy, like Epstein, has possibly been part of a bigger, orchestrated plan involving powerful people, secrets, and control. He suggested that Diddy, much like Epstein before him, might have used his influence not just to build his empire, but to keep others in check, to hold sway over those who may have crossed paths with him in ways they'd rather not have known. In Rogan's words, it's all about compromising stuff, a currency of secrets that buys silence and protection in the highest circles.
I think it's over.
You think it's over?
I think it's over for him as like a figure in entertainment.
Right. But do you think it's over as him as far as
jail?
like he gets a cell right next to R. Kelly?
I don't think so.
Elon Musk, never one to shy away from a controversial conversation, didn't just sit quietly either. He chimed in, agreeing with Rogan's eerie parallels between Diddy and Epstein. Musk echoed Rogan's thoughts, noting that it wouldn't be surprising if Diddy had used his connections and influence to shield himself from consequences for years. In Musk's view, it's entirely plausible that Diddy, much like Epstein, wasn't acting alone, but was instead part of a larger network where people in positions of power helped each other out, ensuring that certain secrets stayed buried. Musk even went as far as to say that it's insane how long Diddy has gone untouched, despite the rumors and whispers that have been circulating around him for years. But here's where things get even more interesting. Rogan didn't just stop at suggesting that Diddy might have dirt on people. He took it a step further, proposing that Diddy himself could be in real danger. According to Rogan, if Diddy's secrets, particularly those involving other powerful individuals, ever came to light, the consequences could be fatal. Rogan hinted at a scenario where Diddy, much like Epstein, could be taken out before those secrets ever see the light of day. And let's not forget how Epstein's story ended. Officially, it was ruled a suicide, but to this day, plenty of people, including Rogan, believe there was more to it, that Epstein's demise was a convenient way to silence him before he could reveal too much.
There's people on both sides, right? There's the people on the right that are trying to nail the people that are on the left with this. There's people that are journalists that are trying to nail the people that were involved in this.
This is it,
And they've managed to keep that list from coming out, which shows you how powerful certain people are. That should show you a lot. That should be terrifying.
Rogan's theory paints a picture of a world where people like Diddy and Epstein don't just thrive on their own, but are part of a bigger machine. A machine that protects its own, as long as they play by the rules. But when someone threatens to spill the beans, that's when things get dangerous. Rogan suggested that Diddy might already be on shaky ground, and that the recent raids on his properties could be just the beginning of his downfall. He floated the idea that, like Epstein, Diddy's connections with powerful figures might have allowed him to skirt the law for years. But now that the spotlight's on him, those same people could turn against him in an effort to protect themselves.
Everybody who tells the stories like, I saw her go upstairs, and these dudes are like right on the couch. And then I go in this room, and these guys are and it's like...
And pros. Like, apparently he was getting male gigolos, girls.
girls.
Yeah, that was one of the rumors, like the
Male
freak off. So he would
gigolos.
hire the professional to have sex with the girls, and I think he would watch, allegedly.
And then there's the question of why Diddy's alleged actions have stayed under wraps for so long. Rogan and Musk both pointed to the entertainment industry itself, suggesting that Hollywood insiders have known about Diddy's darker side for years, but chose to stay quiet, whether out of fear, loyalty, or because they were involved themselves. Many people seemingly turned a blind eye to what was happening. And that, Rogan argued, is exactly how Diddy, and others like him, managed to stay untouchable for so long.
I mean, that's what people were saying, and maybe everybody's a conspiracy theorist now, but that's what people are saying about the Diddy situation. Like when the feds rolled up, with the Hummers and shit, they were like, it wasn't about Diddy, it was about if there were tapes of powerful people there.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
They were the ones that called. They're like, I need to protect myself, so go in there with all the things and rip any tapes or any evidence.
What's even more chilling is the fact that Rogan hinted at the possibility that some of the most respected names in Hollywood might have been involved in these so-called compromise situations. He mentioned that Diddy was always surrounded by celebrities, many of whom likely knew more than they let on. And if that's true, it raises some serious questions about how deep this whole thing goes. Were these people complicit in Diddy's alleged wrongdoings, or were they just too scared to speak out? And perhaps even more disturbingly, how many other powerful figures out there are using the same tactics to maintain control? Musk, for his part, seemed to agree with Rogan's assessment, adding that it's more real than people realize. He suggested that Diddy's circle of influence likely extended far beyond the music industry, reaching into the upper echelons of politics, business, and beyond. Musk also noted that Diddy's alleged ability to gather and hold on to compromising material on others would have given him an immense amount of power that could explain why so many people have stayed silent for so long. But while Rogan and Musk both seemed convinced that Diddy's downfall is inevitable, they also agreed that it might not happen the way people expect. Rogan pointed out that, just like with Epstein, there are likely people out there right now who are doing everything they can to make sure Diddy never gets the chance to expose what he knows. If Rogan's theory is correct, Diddy might not even make it to trial. He could meet an untimely end just like Epstein, with the official story being spun as an accident or a suicide while the real truth stays hidden.
If that's part of the indictment, that's somewhat like a blackmail. He was blackmailing people to be in the freak-offs. So that's federal. That could be that's a federal charge. He can't blackmail people to say, yo, listen here, you did it once and you're gonna do it again. That ain't gonna make it with the government, no.
It's a sobering thought, and one that Rogan didn't shy away from discussing. He speculated that Diddy's connections might already be working behind the scenes to ensure that, if he does go down, he takes as few people with him as possible. And that, Rogan said, is where things get really dangerous for Diddy. If he's backed into a corner, will he stay quiet and take the fall alone, or will he start naming names? And if he does, what will happen to him?
If that's part of the indictment, that's somewhat like a blackmail. He was blackmailing people to be in the freak-offs. So that's federal. That could be that's a federal charge. He can't blackmail people to say, yo, listen here, you did it once and you're gonna do it again. That ain't gonna make it with the government or nobody.
As Rogan and Musk wrapped up their conversation, it was clear that they both believed this story is far from over. The raids on Diddy's properties, the lawsuits, the allegations, they're just the tip of the iceberg. What's lurking underneath could be far more explosive, involving not just Diddy, but some of the most powerful people in the world. And if Rogan's right, those people might already be working overtime to make sure their secrets stay safe. But here's the thing, Rogan and Musk both agreed that the truth has a way of coming out no matter how hard people try to keep it hidden. And when it does, the consequences could be catastrophic, not just for Diddy, but for everyone he's been connected to over the years. Rogan ended the conversation with a warning. Keep an eye on this story because it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And as for Diddy, his fate might already be sealed, whether he knows it or not.
The rumors are that Diddy was running some kind of Epstein type deal where he was filming everybody, right?
That's the rumors, yeah. I don't know that there's any proof or anything other than...
As the public continues to watch this scandal unfold, one thing is for sure, Diddy's world is crumbling, and the secrets that have kept him safe for so long are starting to slip through the cracks. Whether he ends up in prison or not, Rogan's theory suggests that Diddy's days of living above the law are numbered. And if the past is any indication, the fallout from this could be even bigger than anyone realizes. Now, as we transition into the next part of the story, we'll take a closer look at Diddy's rise to power, his infamous past, and the string of accusations that have followed him throughout his career, raising the question, how did he manage to stay untouchable for so long? And why, after all these years, is everything starting to unravel now?
Listen, y'all, I understand that these girls are of age, but this is just disgusting to me. It feels very predatory to me. It feels very older uncle locking lips.
Diddy's rise to power in the hip-hop world is nothing short of legendary. But with all the recent allegations swirling around him, it begs the question, how did he manage to stay on top for so long despite the persistent rumors and controversies that have followed him for years? To really understand why Diddy has remained untouchable in the public eye, we need to go back to the beginning, to the days when he was just another hungry kid from Harlem trying to make a name for himself. Sean Diddy Combs, or Puff Daddy as he was known back in the day, first burst onto the scene in the early 90s. He was young, ambitious, and laser-focused on taking over the music industry. After getting fired from Uptown Records, where he had been working as an A&R executive, Diddy didn't let that setback stop him. Instead, he used it as fuel to create his own empire. In 1993, he founded Bad Boy Records, and just a year later, the label dropped one of the most iconic albums in hip-hop history, Notorious B.I.G.'s Ready to Die. The album's success catapulted both Biggie and Diddy into the stratosphere of fame, and suddenly Bad Boy was the label to be on.
90s.
Music business. It's a lot of people.
It's not just the music business. It's like, it's the extortion business.
Well, I mean, the rap game was crazy. That's a thing a lot of people don't realize is like, back in the day, especially like early rap game, you weren't just going to play at, what's the random theater that you would play in LA? What's like a big theater?
But as Diddy's star was rising, so were tensions in the hip-hop world, particularly between the East Coast and West Coast rap scenes. This wasn't just about music. It was about territory, identity, and power. And Diddy, along with his West Coast rival Suge Knight, found themselves at the center of it all. Now, if you've been following hip-hop for any amount of time, you know about the infamous East Coast-West Coast feud. This wasn't some petty beef. It was a full-blown rivalry that, at its height, had real consequences. Diddy's Bad Boy Records and Suge Knight's Death Row Records were the two titans squaring off, with Biggie representing the East and Shakur leading the charge for the West. The tension between these two camps wasn't just about sales or chart positions. It was personal. And for years, rumors swirled that Diddy wasn't just a bystander in this feud. In fact, some have suggested that Diddy played a much deeper role in the rivalry than he ever let on. There have been persistent whispers that Diddy might have had a hand in orchestrating some of the violence that defined this era. Remember when Shakur was shot in 1994 at Quad Studios in New York? While no one has ever definitively proved who was behind the attack, Shakur himself later insinuated that Diddy and Biggie might have known more than they were letting on. Of course, Diddy has always denied any involvement, but the rumors never really went away.
Why at Diddy and other men like him, financial level and success level, that they cannot go get them.
Fast forward to 1997 and things only got worse. Just months after Shakur was shot in Las Vegas, Biggie was gunned down in Los Angeles. Once again, rumors ran wild. Some speculated that Biggie's assassination was retaliation for Tupac's, while others believed it was part of a larger conspiracy. And once again, Diddy's name was thrown into the mix. Now, to be clear, Diddy has never been officially implicated in either of these incidents, but the fact that his name keeps coming up in connection with two of the most high-profile unsolved cases in music history is telling. And here's the thing. Despite all of this, Diddy's career didn't just survive, it thrived. In the years following Biggie's demise, Diddy continued to release hit after hit. His tribute song to Biggie, I'll Be Missing You, became an anthem, and his debut album, No Way Out, was a massive success. Diddy wasn't just a music mogul anymore. He was a bona fide pop culture icon. He was hanging out with celebrities, attending lavish parties, and building a brand that extended far beyond music.
Someone said that they weren't there to take stuff, they were there to delete everything. Like the real people that were in there,
Oh,
like
that's
the same
funny.
thing with Epstein.
Oh, that's funny.
But while Diddy was living the high life, the rumors about his involvement in shady dealings didn't go away. Over the years, numerous stories have surfaced about Diddy's alleged connections to violence, intimidation, and even criminal activity. Take, for example, the infamous 1999 nightclub shooting involving Diddy and his then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez. That night, shots were fired inside a Manhattan nightclub, and while Diddy was never charged with any wrongdoing, his associate, rapper Shine, ended up taking the fall and serving time in prison. Many people believe that Diddy used his wealth and influence to avoid any legal consequences, leaving others to take the blame. And this is where things start to get really interesting, because when you look at Diddy's track record, it becomes clear that he has an almost uncanny ability to avoid serious legal trouble. Time and time again, Diddy has been linked to incidents that could have ended his career, yet he always seems to come out unscathed. Some people believe this is because Diddy is just really good at covering his tracks, while others think there might be something more going on behind the scenes.
That's of course. There's layers upon layers. When you get into these conspiracy theories, man, they never end. They never end. There's just layers upon layers upon layers.
This brings us back to the theories floated by Joe Rogan and others, who suggest that Diddy might have ties to powerful people in law enforcement or even intelligence agencies. According to these theories, Diddy has been able to stay out of jail because he's been providing information to the authorities, essentially acting as an informant. Now, this is pure speculation, of course, but it's a theory that's been gaining traction, especially in light of the recent allegations against him. One of the most vocal proponents of this theory is Suge Knight, the former head of Death Row Records, who's currently serving time in prison. In a recent podcast interview from Behind Bars, Knight claimed that Diddy has been an FBI informant for years, which is why he's been able to avoid serious consequences despite all the allegations against him. Knight went on to say that Diddy's days of freedom are numbered, predicting that he'll eventually end up behind bars just like him. And it's not just Suge Knight who's been making these claims. Yeah, another major figure in the hip-hop world has also hinted at Diddy's possible connections to the feds. In a now-deleted episode of the Drink Champs podcast, he suggested that Diddy has been working with the feds, which is why he's managed to stay out of trouble for so long. Ye later deleted the episode, but the damage was done. People were talking, and once again, the rumors about Diddy's secret connections were front and center. Adding fuel to the fire are the recent raids on Diddy's properties in Los Angeles and Miami by the Department of Homeland Security. These raids were reportedly part of an ongoing investigation into allegations of trafficking and other serious crimes. While Diddy hasn't been charged with anything yet, the fact that federal agents are involved has led many to believe that something big is about to go down. Eddie Griffin, the comedian and actor, even speculated that the raids were about more than just Diddy. They were about protecting other powerful people who might be implicated in whatever secrets Diddy is holding on to.
Well, if he really was filming everybody, I mean, he had a lot of people at those parties, right?
The idea that Diddy could be sitting on incriminating evidence about other celebrities or powerful figures isn't as far-fetched as it might seem. After all, this is a guy who's been rubbing shoulders with the rich and famous for decades. He's thrown some of the most exclusive parties in Hollywood, and it's no secret that what happens at these parties doesn't always stay private. Over the years, there have been plenty of rumors about what goes down behind closed doors at Diddy's infamous white parties. And some people believe that Diddy might have recordings or other evidence that could be used to blackmail or control people in positions of power.
Caligula.
Okay, so then there's the question. It's like, can you take a completely normal person, give them power, and then they become that? Or does it take a power-hungry person that has this void that needs to be filled, and then when they are given that power, you see the worst version of them?
Ask your CIA boy. I bet he's got the answers. I bet he knows the exact formula.
To corrupting somebody
Yeah.
or to...
What happens? Like what happens?
This brings us back to Joe Rogan's comparison between Diddy and Jeffrey Epstein. Rogan suggested that, like Epstein, Diddy might have used his influence to gather compromising material on others, essentially holding it over their heads to ensure their loyalty or silence. And if that's the case, it could explain why Diddy has managed to stay out of jail despite all the accusations against him. But Rogan also warned that if Diddy's secrets ever came to light, the consequences could be devastating, not just for Diddy, but for everyone involved. And let's not forget that Diddy's legal troubles aren't just limited to the recent federal investigation. Over the years, he's faced multiple lawsuits, many of which have been settled out of court. One of the most high-profile cases involved his ex-girlfriend, singer Cassie Ventura, who filed a lawsuit in 2023 accusing Diddy of physical and emotional abuse during their relationship. While the case was settled, it opened the floodgates for other women to come forward with similar allegations. And as more people speak out, it's becoming harder and harder for Diddy to maintain the image he's carefully cultivated over the years.
And that has nothing to do with him having this baby or him having this side girl for almost 15 years.
Even with all this swirling around him, Diddy has remained defiant. He's denied all the allegations against him, and his legal team has been working overtime to paint him as the victim of a witch hunt. In a statement released after the raids on his properties, Diddy's lawyer called the investigation a premature rush to judgment and insisted that Diddy would fight to clear his name. But with so many people coming forward and so much attention on the case, it's hard to see how Diddy will be able to escape this time. As we look at Diddy's career and the legacy he's built, it's clear that his influence extends far beyond music. He's a businessman, a cultural icon, and a symbol of success for many people. But as these recent events unfold, we're seeing a different side of Diddy, a side that's been shrouded in secrecy for years. Whether or not he's guilty of the crimes he's been accused of, the fact remains that Diddy's reputation is taking a serious hit. And as more information comes to light, it's possible that the empire he spent decades building could come crashing down.
Man, I just had like a 3.5 hour cry.
So, where does Diddy go from here? Will he be able to weather this storm, or is this the beginning of the end for one of hip-hop's biggest stars? Only time will tell, but one thing is for sure, this story is far from over. And as more details emerge, it's likely that we'll continue to see more twists and turns in the saga of Sean Diddy Combs. As we wrap up, let's keep our eyes on this ever-evolving situation. There's no telling what new revelations might come to light in the days and weeks ahead. Could Diddy's alleged connections to powerful figures finally be exposed? Or will he somehow manage to slip through the cracks once again? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the latest updates on this ever-evolving story.